I was bored out of my mind when the signal came in. That is the truth of it. No dramatic moment. No heroic instinct kicking in at just the right time. I was sitting in the mess hall of the U.S. Defiant Mercy, eating reheated noodles at a relay station, so far from anything important that most star charts did not bother to name it. 11 years humanity had been part of the galactic community, and they still gave us the quiet postings. The safe ones. The ones where nothing ever happened. Then the distress beacon hit our receivers, and nothing ever being the same again took about 4 seconds. My name is Rael Vasquez. I was 42 years old. I had spent 20 years pulling people out of collapsed buildings, sinking ships, and burning cities back on Earth, before they gave me a uniform and a ship, and told me to go represent humanity among the stars. I thought I had seen everything. I want you to understand that, because what came next proved me completely wrong. The beacon was Veluuri in origin. Old encoding. Maximum urgency. Our systems translated it in real time, and I read the words on my screen 3 times before I believed them. The planet Veluuri Prime was breaking apart. Their planetary core was fracturing from the inside. 4 billion souls. Estimated time to total collapse. 94 standard hours. 94 hours. That is less than 4 days. The beacon was not meant for us. Let me make that clear. The Veluuri had encoded it specifically for the Kaelith Compact, the oldest and most respected alliance in the galaxy. The Kaelith were wise. They were careful. They had resources beyond anything humanity could dream of. They were the ones you called when the impossible happened, and the Kaelith received the signal. I watched their official response come through the diplomatic channels in real time. They would convene a deliberation council. They would assess risk factors. They would allocate resources through the proper bureaucratic framework, and dispatch a preliminary survey team. Estimated arrival of actual aid, 340 standard hours. The planet would be dust in 94. I sat there staring at those 2 numbers for a long time. 340, 94. And something in my chest that I cannot properly describe simply refused to accept it. I contacted Earth United Command. I did not write a formal request. I did not follow protocol. I sent 6 words. 4 billion people. Nobody else going. Earth's reply came 20 minutes later. 5 words. Permission granted. Bring them home. What happened next was the most beautifully chaotic thing I have ever witnessed. Within 6 hours we had assembled a fleet. I call it a fleet because I am being generous. The Defiant Mercy was a repurposed military frigate with a medical bay the size of a closet. We had 2 mining barges that a company called Horizon Deep had volunteered, along with their crews. We had a hospital ship called the Florence, already understaffed before this started. We had a civilian cargo hauler whose captain, a woman named Dara Osei, had interrupted her shipping route the moment she heard the beacon. And we had a research vessel full of geologists and astrophysicists who had literally walked out of an academic conference, still wearing their name badges, and boarded the nearest shuttle. None of us had ever done anything like this. None of us had stabilized a dying planet. Most of us had never even been to Veluuri space. It did not matter. Every single person who came because someone was asking for help, and no one else was answering. That is the thing about humans that the rest of the galaxy has never understood. We are not the smartest species out here. We are not the strongest, or the fastest, or the most advanced. But you put a clock on a disaster and tell us it cannot be done, and something in the human brain simply refuses to listen. We dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Veluuri Prime, and the sight of it nearly broke me. The planet was wounded. There is no other word for it. Massive cracks split across entire continents like veins of fire. Chains of eruptions marched across the southern hemisphere. The oceans were boiling where they met the fault lines, sending columns of steam so high they were visible from orbit. It was the largest dying thing I had ever seen. The Veluuri orbital stations hailed us immediately. I will never forget the look on Counselor Ithari's face when her image appeared on our screen. She was tall, elegant, with skin that shimmered like polished crystal. She was the high steward of her people. She had been expecting the Kaelith Compact, the most sophisticated civilization in the galaxy. She got us. Commander Vasquez, she said carefully, we are grateful for your concern, but this beacon was encoded for the Kaelith Compact. We require specialized planetary engineering capabilities. Is humanity qualified for this type of operation? I understood her hesitation. In the galactic community, Humans were the new kids, the loud ones, the ones who made the elder species nervous at diplomatic dinners. We were a cautionary tale they told each other about what happens when a species develops faster than its wisdom. "Counselor," I said, "I have pulled survivors out of earthquakes, floods, and fires. I have never stabilized a planetary core, but I brought people who are willing to figure it out on the way down. Will you let us try?" There was a long pause. Behind her, through the station's viewport, I could see her world breaking apart. "We have no choice," she said quietly. "Please, try." We learned the full picture within the first hour. Deep beneath the surface of Veluuri Prime sat an ancient device called the Heartstone. The Veluuri had built it thousands of years ago to regulate their planet's unstable tectonics. It was a masterpiece of engineering, a crystalline engine the size of a cathedral buried 40 kilometers below the crust, and it was failing. The Veluuri scientists explained the problem with the calm precision of people who had already accepted that they were going to lose everything. The Heartstone needed to be manually recalibrated. Its internal resonance chambers had drifted out of alignment. Someone would need to physically descend through the crust and mantle to reach it, and reset each chamber by hand. No Veluuri could survive the descent. Their biology could not handle the heat, the pressure, or the radiation at those depths. The Kaelith would have built an automated probe to do it. That probe would have taken weeks to construct. I asked the only question that mattered. Can a human survive it in a deep-core hardsuit? The Veluuri engineers ran the calculations. They looked at human biology, our tolerance for heat, our resistance to pressure, our stubborn, improbable durability that evolution had given us from millions of years of surviving things that should have ended us. The answer was, barely, maybe. With the right equipment and a lot of luck. I looked at my crew. They already knew what I was going to ask. I could see it in their faces. Not one of them looked away. "I need 12 volunteers for a descent that nobody has ever attempted," I said. "I will not order anyone to go." 29 people stepped forward. I picked 12. We suited up in deep-core mining hardsuits, the heaviest, most reinforced equipment humanity had ever built, and we began the descent through the bore shaft that the mining barges had drilled for us. Above us, the rest of our fleet did the impossible in 100 small ways. The Florence moved into low orbit and began evacuating coastal cities threatened by advancing lava flows. Dara Osei's cargo hauler dropped heat shielding over population centers. The research vessel ran real-time models of every fault line on the planet, predicting collapses before they happened, so evacuation teams could move people to safety minutes before the ground opened. Down below, we descended into the dark. I will not lie to you. I was afraid. The tunnel walls glowed with heat. The temperature inside my suit climbed steadily despite every cooling system running at maximum. Every few minutes, the entire shaft trembled as another seismic event rolled through the planet, and chunks of rock the size of cars would break free above us and crash down. We kept going. There was nothing else to do. It was Priya Okafor, a 26-year-old mining engineer from Lagos, who started humming first. Some old song I did not recognize. Then Kowalski joined in. Then Torres. Then others. One by one, my team filled that terrible, glowing tunnel with music. Quiet, steady, human music in the throat of a dying planet. That is what we do. We sing in the dark. We have always sung in the dark. At the halfway point, a massive tremor collapsed the shaft behind us. 200 meters of tunnel simply ceased to exist, sealed shut by falling rock and superheated stone. We could not go back up the way we came. We were committed now. For better or for worse, Counselor Ithari contacted me over comms, sometime during the final kilometers of descent. I could hear the strain in her voice. She had been watching the surface operations. Human medics carrying Veluuri children through fields of ash. Human pilots flying through smoke to reach stranded communities on collapsing cliffsides. She had watched all of it. "Commander Vasquez," she said, "why are you doing this? You gain nothing from being here. There is no treaty, no alliance. No obligation." I was breathing hard. My suit was running hot. My hands were shaking. "Because you asked for help," I said. "We did not ask you," she said softly. "You asked. We were the ones who heard. That is enough." She did not respond, but she did not close the channel either. I think she stayed on the line the rest of the way down. We reached the Heartstone chamber, and even through fear and exhaustion, it stole my breath. A vast underground cathedral of crystallized rock, glowing with fading golden light, and at its center, the Heartstone itself. A towering engine of living crystal, cracked and flickering, its song almost gone. 7 resonance chambers. Each one had to be realigned by hand, in sequence. I split my team across the chambers, and we went to work. The planet fought us every step. Tremors shook the chamber. Cracks spread across the ceiling. Heat poured in from breaches in the surrounding rock. But my people worked. They worked with steady hands and stubborn hearts, and not one of them stopped. The last chamber was the hardest. The resonance array at the core of the Heartstone had to be physically held in alignment, while the entire system recalibrated. The process would take 11 minutes. The person holding it would be exposed to radiation levels that no hardsuit could fully block. It was not a death sentence, but it was close. Priya Okafor was moving before I could speak. She crossed the chamber floor in long, steady strides, reached the array, and braced herself against it with both hands. "Commander," she said over comms, "go. Get the team to the surface. I have got this." "Priya, let me take your position." "No, sir. You have a report to write. Someone has to tell them we were here." She cut her comms before I could argue. We ran. Behind us, Priya Okafor held the heart of a dying world in her hands. 11 minutes later, the Heartstone sang. I felt it before I heard it. A deep, resonant hum that passed through the rock, through our suits, through our bones. The tremors slowed. The cracks stopped spreading. Somewhere far above us, on the surface, the eruptions began to quiet. The oceans stopped boiling. The fissures held. Veluuri Prime lived. The mining barges bored a secondary shaft and pulled us to the surface. We emerged into gray light and falling ash, and the first thing I heard was cheering. Thousands of Veluuri voices, rising together, calling out in a language I did not speak but understood perfectly. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." Priya Okafor emerged 40 minutes after us, carried on a stretcher, barely conscious, smiling. She spent 3 weeks in the Florence's medical bay. She lost most of the feeling in her left hand. She never once said she regretted it. The Kaelith Compact survey team arrived 200 hours later. They found the crisis resolved. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the eldest civilization in the stars had nothing to say. Counselor Ithari visited me on the Defiant Mercy before we departed. She brought a Veluuri ceremonial crystal, the highest honor her people could give. She placed it in my hands and looked at me with those shimmering, ancient eyes. "We called for the Kaelith," she said, "because they are wise, and careful, and old. They would have studied the problem beautifully. They would have arrived too late." She paused. "You are none of those things. And 4 billion of my people breathe today because of it." She stepped back. Then, quietly, "We called the wrong species. Thank every star that you answered." I sat alone in my quarters that night, holding Priya's crew patch in one hand and the Veluuri crystal in the other. I opened my terminal and began writing my after-action report. I stared at the blank screen for a long time. Then I typed the only words that mattered. To whom it may concern, humanity was not called. Humanity was not expected. Humanity showed up anyway. As we always have, as we always will. This is our answer. It will always be our answer. I sent the report. I turned off the lights, and somewhere behind us, growing smaller in the viewport, but burning steady and alive, a world that should have died, kept spinning through the stars, because someone had asked for help, and we heard.